Let's talk about the Sony 50mm f1.8, otherwise known as the Nifty 50. In this video, I'm gonna go on a photo walk with this lens to test it out and, see the results I can get with it now. And, maybe some thought processing on how to choose lenses and when to and when not to buy them. Now, the last time I owned this lens was like 2017. I wasn't really doing professional work yet, but I was doing a lot of photo shoots. And of course, this is one of the lenses that you buy very early in your career. It's probably the first lens that most people buy because it's fast and it's cheap. And it's one way to get that instant pro look with the blurry backgrounds and everything. So this is usually what people go for because it's under $300. You get a professional look right away. Now, this lens isn't perfect by any means. It does feel kind of cheap. It's kind of old, so it still has all the old autofocus things. It's not silent in autofocus. It makes a lot of noise when it's focusing. It's optically not perfect. It has, chromatic aberration. It might not focus as fast as newer lenses. It's pretty known for being a beginner lens. So fast forward to today, and I was in the market for a 50mm lens, and I had a few options. You have the Sony 50mm 2.5G lens that's really small and compact. You have the 1.4G Master and the 1.2G Master. And I started thinking for what I want to use it for, the f1.8 version might be ideal, and it's only, a couple of $100. So I said, why not? I'm going to try it out, get it again. So this is the first time I've owned this lens since 2017. I haven't used it since. So this is the Sony a7C Mark II, and I typically have the 24mm f2.8 mounted on it, if I can get it on. So this is my everyday carry type of setup, small, compact, easy. And I wanted to shoot at a 50mm focal length, but the other version of the lens in this set is a 2.8, which I don't mind, but it is more expensive than the f1.8. So I was like, well, let me try the f1.8, and it's not big at all. It's pretty lightweight. Well, it's actually very lightweight because it's pretty cheap feeling. But as you can see, it doesn't really add any size to the camera. So it was like, why not? So if I put that lens on this camera, I actually think this lens might be lighter. This lens feels lighter than this one. I don't know if it's actually lighter, but maybe it's just the material because this one is metal. But this one actually feels lighter, even though it's slightly bigger. So when I put it on the camera, it doesn't feel like I have a lens on it. It's like, it balances very well. So I know this won't be an issue for me size-wise. Even though the other one is smaller, this is not causing me any issues at this size and weight. So the most important question is, how does it perform? And as you can probably hear, it's not silent. The lens isn't silent at all. Like, I can hear every little adjustment it's making on the focus. But what I will say is that it's not really missing focus at all. Like, you gotta remember that when you pair it with a modern camera, you have the modern advantages of autofocus. So this lens didn't perform too well when I had the original Sony a7, but fast forward many years later, and we have cameras like this with AI autofocusing and way more autofocus points. I'm not missing any focus at all when I try to focus. Now we're gonna take it out into the real world and see how it actually performs when I'm actually shooting, but I can definitely see an improvement over what I used to experience way back when I first had the lens, mainly because of the camera bodies we have now. Now, just like I expected, the lens is performing perfectly fine. I don't have any problems. Autofocusing, obviously, I haven't seen the shots yet because I'm actively shooting, but I'm not noticing any cheapness or lack of ability from this lens so far. So in the world of YouTube, we often compare lenses and cameras and talk about these different things. And I think we have to always make sure to remember that just because something isn't good in certain aspects doesn't mean that it's not good for the job. Like, if you need a silent lens, this wouldn't cut it, right? But if that's not a problem, if the lens making noises when it's focusing doesn't cause you any trouble, then it's not really a bad thing. It's like, I would tell somebody that have the original Sony 50mm f1.8, and they might say, oh, that lens it makes a lot of noise when focusing. It's like, so, you know, like, it doesn't really matter if you don't need to be quiet. So that's not an issue. If, you know, any chromatic aberration issues or anything like that, is like, if you're not doing work where that is messing up the work, that doesn't matter either. It's not the most sharp lens out of the set. Once again, that doesn't really matter. A lot of times we do things like put diffusion filters on the lens, which is what I did in the shoot, and it doesn't really matter to me either. So you always have to make sure that you focus on what actually matters and impacts your work. You know, if you're doing something where you need the most pristine quality, tack sharp, absolute perfection, then yeah, go spend the money on a f1.4 G Master, f1.2 G Master. That's what those lenses are for. But I'm just trying to use this for a run and gun, everyday type of lightweight setup to shoot pictures with when I want to shoot at 50mm. So, you know, in that context, this is the perfect lens. A 50mm f1.4 would be a downgrade for me in this situation because it's much bigger, much heavier, and it's not what I need. Like, that is unnecessary. So always think about the purchases that you make based on what you need. And, you know, I like to watch the comparisons on YouTube between different lenses just so I can understand, you know, what it is I'm getting, and it makes it easier for me to decide what I want or don't want out of the situation. So if I look at a lens and, you know, there's 40 videos talking about how loud the lens is, if I know that's not a problem for me, cool. I just wanted to be aware that, okay, the lens makes noise. I can make a decision whether or not that works for me. So anything that you hear on YouTube or any other person say that is a negative for them, put it into your own context. Some of the pictures that you saw in this video, I will be posting on Instagram in HDR. So if you have a phone or a screen that can show HDR, head over to my Instagram page so you can check those out, because you aren't seeing them in HDR on this YouTube video. So check them out, follow me on Instagram, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.